Welcome back. The Great Lakes receive a failing grade in a new report analyzing the effects of climate change on the region. The Environmental Law and Policy Center releasing its findings earlier this month. Now, this is an update to a massive study they released in 2019. According to the center, more than 40 million people rely on the Great Lakes for drinking water, fisheries, recreation, commerce, industry. And in summary, the report finds climate change is impacting all those areas and not in a positive way. And we welcome in Dr. Don Wibbles. He is the lead author of this report. He's also a professor emeritus of atmospheric science at the University of Illinois. And as we mentioned, Don, this is an update to that massive report you guys did in 2019, but new in the findings and an attention grabber certainly in our neck of the woods is what you projected for the whitefish population, that it could be off the radar in some parts in the next 5 years. Why is that?
Well, that's based on a published paper, journal paper. And the study suggests that the warming of the Great Lakes is sufficient that whitefish may move further north and be out of the common areas that whitefish tend to be a major food source for. Like, I know Door County, for example, is a very popular area for whitefish. I've been there myself and enjoyed it. And that's a real concern with this continual warming of the Great Lakes.
Some of this is ice cover too, right? The whitefish need the ice cover for their eggs. There's a lot of things that kind of fold into this, but it's not just whitefish, as you folks pointed out. What other species might be at risk here?
Well, there's some other cold water fish that I'm not much of a fisherman myself, so many of the cold water species are likely to move further north.
And if that happens, if this stuff comes to fruition, we're talking massive economic impact. Great Lakes fishing industry, recreational fishing on the Great Lakes. A study commissioned earlier this year by the Great Lakes Fishery, over $5 billion in economic impact. So there is a significant risk here. You mentioned the warming of the waters. Why should we be paying attention to this? And should we be paying very close attention to where the warming is taking place in these waters?
Oh, definitely. As you know, our planet as a whole has been warming extensively, and the science clearly shows that that's related to human activities as the cause of it. And what we're seeing in the Great Lakes is the warming is particularly happening at the deeper levels. And so that has significant impact on not only life in the lakes, but also what oxygen levels and what the conditions would be like for fish and other species that depend on those lakes. It's particularly worrisome that it's happening at the deep levels.
You talk about species there, but does this invite further invasive species or more invasive species, if you will, to this ecosystem?
Certainly does. And as you know, the zebra mussels have essentially taken over the Great Lakes, right. And it increases the water quality, but it also produces less food supply for the fish and other species that live there. So it's having multiple impacts. If other invasive species get in there, they'll like the fact that the water is warmer than it's been in the past, and that could really change the entire nature of the lakes.
We talked a little bit, I mentioned the recreational fishing on the Great Lakes. It doesn't just apply to when the water is open. It does apply also to, wintertime and ice. And you're now very concerned, this report, very concerned about ice cover and the changing of that. What could that do in terms of what we recognize now as lake shores? If we start losing ice, are we starting to lose lake shores, in other words, erosion?
Right, but there's several different aspects there. One is there's less ice, less freezing in the winter. And so, to the point where probably in the coming decades, we can expect to see no ice in winters, and that would have an effect on, what happens during that season. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, lake levels are controlled basically by the combination of precipitation versus evaporation. And we're finding more rainfall overall, more precipitation overall in the Great Lakes region. less snow generally, but more in lake effect snow areas is expected. And because of the increase in precipitation overall, particularly in winter and spring, and the increased evaporation due to warmer temperatures, there's this continual battle as to, are the lake levels going to continue to oscillate in height like they have in the past? But the studies are now suggesting that we're going to have higher lake levels in general, that we're going to still see that isolation. We're still going to go between high and low levels, but more likely to see higher lake levels in the past, and that certainly increases the likelihood of issues with coastlines.
This report is incredibly nuanced and builds on, again, that massive report in 2019. We'll have a link to both of those on our websites if you want to check them out, and I urge you to check those out. But I'm curious, Professor, does this report sound the alarm, and if so, who do you think is listening?
Well, I'm hoping everyone's listening because, we in the Midwest all depend on the Great Lakes in many different ways. They affect our climate, their major water supply, major food source, and a major transportation mechanism. So the Great Lakes are important to all of us and really affect the entire nation in that way. But for those of us in the Midwest and in Canada, this report kind of sounds the alarm that we all need to be really concerned about the changes that are happening and what they mean to our future, because we're going to see significant costs to our economy if we continue to just let this happen.
Well, Professor, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the insight. Thanks so much.
Sure. Happy to help.